Let's discuss the court filing with the editor-in-chief of Jewish News Syndicate and former Columbia student, Jonathan Tobin. Jonathan, thanks for joining the Leventhal Report. A civil suit is one thing, but what about criminal charges? If Khalil and others had advanced knowledge of the attacks and said nothing, aren't they accessories to mass murder, and couldn't they be prosecuted for not alerting authorities?
Well, Rick, thanks for having me on. These are interesting questions. Certainly, some of the things that are related in that lawsuit are extremely suspicious. I'm not sure that they knew exactly when the Hamas attack on Israel was going to happen, but that's worth asking about because of the coincidence in terms of their actions. But what we do know for sure is that they are all pro-Hamas. They are pro-terrorism. They have been engaged in open anti-Semitism and acts of harassment and even violence against Jews at Columbia. That's for certain. They have a long history of this. As for those who are being sought by ICE, well, they're the ones who have to explain their actions, and the fact that it's almost certain that Khalil lied on his documents getting into this country and then applying for a green card. There's no way he was honest about everything that he was doing and then got in, because it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, right. And Jonathan, the Jerusalem Times had a really strong article about all of this, detailing the lawsuit allegations that Hamas used these groups as operatives, helping reactivate their accounts minutes before the attack so they could hand out protest and propaganda materials as the horrific events unfolded in Israel. Columbia SJP, for example, was dormant for months, but fired back up on the eve of the attack, as I mentioned in the monologue, telling their members to stay tuned. So what are your thoughts on the people still protesting with these groups?
Well, some of them have been honest all along about the fact that they are pro-Hamas, that they are pro-terrorism. Their goal is to destroy the one Jewish state on the planet. They haven't made a lot of secret about that. When they chant from the river to the sea, whether they can identify those two bodies of water or not, they're calling for the genocide of the Jewish population between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. We already know that. There may be some dupes and fellow travelers who just went along for the ride with the crowd, but the organizers of these groups were prepared. They went straight into propaganda, celebrating the Hamas attacks, the Palestinian assault on southern Israel, which left 1,200 men, women, and children dead, and was an orgy of murder, rape, torture, kidnapping, and wanton destruction. They were on record supporting these things. They are not human rights groups. They are not they're not worried about the suffering of Palestinians, which is the responsibility of Hamas. They are against the existence of Israel. They are against the existence of Jews, and they have trafficked for a long time, these groups like SJP and Jewish Voice for Peace, which is not really Jewish and indeed is not led by Jews. They've been engaged in anti-Semitism. Their connections to Hamas and to Palestinian terrorism are very clear, and we need to know more about that.
Which is why I've always been so surprised that there wasn't greater outrage against what they were doing, the flags they were carrying, and the chants that they were making. A hearing was held earlier today for Khalil and 7 other Columbia students who are attempting to block the university from sharing private disciplinary records with the GOP-led House committee, claiming their freedom of speech as university students is being violated. But on Sunday, the Trump administration filed allegations against Khalil, claiming, as you mentioned, he failed to disclose his membership in several organizations when he tried to become a permanent U.S. resident. One of those organizations was that United Nations agency that's supposed to help Palestinian refugees, but allegedly also helped Hamas during the attack. Do you think that Khalil's non-disclosure is grounds for deportation, or should he just be deported based on what we've now learned from this lawsuit?
I think there is enough to deport him already. Certainly his connections to pro-Hamas, UNRWA, UNRWA, which is his goal is to perpetuate the conflict. It is totally compromised by Hamas. But let's understand something, the basic facts here. these arguments, this, the attempt to deport Khalil and others, it's not about free speech. Their right to have opinions is not in question. They're being targeted for actions in which they fomented anti-Semitic mobs to attack, harass, and create a hostile environment for Jews at Columbia. That's what they're on the hot seat for, not for having speech.
Yeah.
Nobody's questioning the right to have an opinion about the existence of Israel, as odious as their support for genocide may be. It's about their actions, and that's why Trump's actions against Columbia and other schools who have tolerated and even encouraged this are entirely right. And actually, rather than destroying education, which is what the people at the New York Times and other sort of liberal dupes of these pro-Hamas thugs are saying, Trump actually has the potential to save American education from the woke culture that has enabled and produced them.
Well, let's hope so. Jonathan Tobin, we got to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining the show.